Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Idea to Value podcast. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn, and I'm thrilled to have with me today Pascal Guyon. He is a composer and Grammy-nominated music producer, and more recently, he's now also a computer programmer and tech investor. I'm really looking forward to speaking with him about his creative process in the world of music production and some of his other creative endeavors. Pascal, it's wonderful speaking with you today.
Thank you for having me very much.
Welcome to the Idea to Value podcast, where in every episode we highlight the latest insights into creativity and innovation from experts around the world. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn. I care about the evidence behind what makes ideas happen, and I've already helped thousands of people just like you through my unique insights into recent scientific findings of how creativity works. I also show you how to turbocharge innovation programs so they finally deliver on the value and ideas you've been struggling to execute. Get your free training on how creativity can be improved by registering now at www.ideatovalue.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. So, Pascal, for people who don't know about you and your work, could you just give us a brief background as to where you got started and how you got to where you are now?
Yes. How much time do you have for that? So, no, basically, I think I was naturally quite creative at a very young age. I was playing Legos all the time. I was also taking my Lego boxes and I was hitting them like I was playing drums on them. I was also drawing a lot. And I think around my teenage years, I actually naturally went towards music in a much more serious way. That's when I decided that that would be my job. So I took a lot of courses, got graduations in classical music, jazz music, also studied Cuban music very heavily, went to Cuba with my mentor several times, living with families who represent the religious music in Cuba. I started to play with lots of bands, jazz bands, Latin bands, and pop bands in France. Ended up being a music director for some signed artists and pianists. And it became clear that I didn't really like that much to be on stage, but what I was really enjoying was being in the studio, creating, and when a song was done, I was not really interested in hearing about it anymore. I wanted to do the next one. So that's when I really embraced composing and producing. So I got a first team in France, but my heroes were in the US, like the big music producers. And what I did is I used social media. At my time, it was MySpace to really build a huge network and started to receive a good amount of opportunities, of proposals. And that's how I placed my first songs with big artists. So actually, in 1 month, suddenly I got a song with one of Timbaland's rappers, DOE. We placed a song in the Ben Stiller movie. The same month, I got a song with one of the biggest boy band in Korea at the time called TVXQ. And I got another song with the guy who won the French Idol show in France. So that suddenly happened. It was actually a fight to make it happen, to have your first songs placed somewhere. But when it starts to happening, it's like super exciting, obviously. And so very, very happy about that. But I wanted to be in the US so bad. And thanks to my connections on MySpace and also through heavy networking in person, I actually got invited in Los Angeles by one of the biggest songwriter producer of all time. His name is Walter Afanasieff. That's the guy who did the biggest Mariah Carey songs, Whitney Houston, Barbara Streisand, Kenny G, Michael Jackson, you name it. So thanks to him and Chris Ivory, who is a music executive, they brought me to Los Angeles for a month. And the crazy thing is the first two albums I worked on during my first 2 weeks got 3 Grammy nominations and sold over 10 million copies worldwide. So that was Leona Lewis, her first album, and Anthony Hamilton. Because I spent an afternoon working with Heavy D, and we did two tracks together, and one of them went to Anthony Hamilton. So my first month in Los Angeles was insane. I was hanging with like super high profile people in music. So that was really crazy. I met Diane Warren my first month. I met several times Justin Timberlake and played him my music and met his people. And so I was really, really completely insane. So I went back to France and prepared my visa. That was easy to get because I had all these nice credits. Moved, signed my first publishing deal here with actually Michael Jackson's former publisher, Dale Kawashima. Worked with them for a while. And I went on to work with tons of artists all over the world. And a few years later, I just started to develop other passions, one for finance and another one for computers. And I worked on that extremely hard, and I still do. And that also allowed me to make some very nice exclusive investments, and that also led me to make softwares for some companies, including for Hyperloop TT. I spent most of last year building entirely coding a software for our Hyperloop company, actually. So that's where I am right now. I'm navigating between music, finance, and investments. It really depends, but these days it's mostly a lot of research for trading investments and a lot of programming as well, a bit less music. But I don't know how it's gonna evolve. It really depends on the events. We'll see.
Absolutely. It sounds like a real Renaissance man doing lots of very different things. But let's
Yeah,
take it. Yeah.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I'm just I know people get confused, but basically I have three focus. It's music, finance, programming. That's it. The rest is for fun. The cooking, it's for fun. That's it.
so let's take it back to the music production side to start with. I think a lot of people know that there are music producers, but they don't know what they do. You see the images in music videos or in TV shows where the guy's in the studio, he presses record, he fiddles with some switches, and then he saves the file, and that seems to be music producing. So
Yeah.
I assume it's not that. Could you tell us what you do as a music producer and how
Yes.
that
So
fits into the creative process?
yeah. So to make it simple to understand for everybody, it's pretty much as a music producer, your job is to realize a songwriter or a singer's dream, meaning they want to do something, they have a song in mind, maybe they have the beginning of a song, and your job is to meet with them, talk to them, almost doing like a psychotherapy with them, understanding what's going on, what they want, what they're looking for. And along the years, you learn to be able to create music around their idea that will make them satisfied, basically. So, of course, it takes a lot of practice, a lot of years to be able to get people, read them, understand them, and then deliver something that is a mix between what is your sound and what they want. So ideally, that's the goal.
Okay, and you say you also did composition. Was that always part of your producing? Did you always use
Yes,
your own work, or did you take sort of beats from one other external artist, ideas
actually,
from all over the
never.
place?
No, I never do that. So when people come to work with me, it's always starting from scratch, or sometimes they might have started to pre-compose, pre-produce the songs, and basically I take it from there and build it, and we go all the way to the finish line, basically.
Okay, I asked that because nowadays there seems to be such availability of pre-mixed beats and tunes
Oh yeah,
online, and so it sounds like a lot more people can uh,
sure.
outsource parts of the production process
Oh yeah.
that
Well,
previously must have been manual.
the thing is, I would have zero interest in doing that because that would kill the creative process by definition. You know, I'm interested in maybe, okay, starting to work on something that the artist I'm working with started to pre-compose, pre-produce, but taking something that is already done, or like almost fully done, I have zero interest myself in doing that because I want to create. That's what is really fulfilling. And so, yeah, that's why 99% of the time when I work with artists, we start from zero. Yeah,
It's interesting. During the first part, you said you found you didn't enjoy being on stage as much as the actual
yeah.
creative process. I always
Oh
find it
yeah,
interesting speaking to different creative people when they feel they're most creative. A lot of
yeah.
them feel the adrenaline rush of performing, but if they have
Mhm.
to perform the same thing over and over again,
Yeah,
they lose that part of the rush.
yeah,
What's your
yeah.
feeling?
Well, yeah, it makes complete sense for me because I think the joy of the creation is by definition it's a absolutely unique moment. It cannot be replicated, and what happened at that moment cannot be replicated, and that's what we're seeking as creators. So that's why when it happened once you're like, oh, that was so cool. It's like some kind of magic happened at that time, and you're like, let's do it again. Let's do something, like let's create something different, like something new.
So let's talk about your own creative process.
Hmm.
In what situations do you feel you're able to get into the flow? What sort of do you have any rituals around what you do beforehand or afterwards? Whether it's
Right.
with your music production or coding is just as
Yeah.
creative. And do you ever feel blocked? Has that happened to you over the last couple of years?
Yeah, of course, it can happen to be completely blocked, and usually the best solution is just to do a pause. So I have actually found out what works best for me if I'm blocked is I'm trying to do a pause and do an activity that stimulates me in a very intense way so that I completely forget about what I did before. So that when I get back to it, I'm completely fresh and I usually know how to solve that problem. That's that. And for the process, I like to say that along the years, the flow state became my best friend. But honestly, I think it's one of the best way to cultivate that is actually to eat a lot of knowledge. So as a music producer, I mean, I've listened and studied like countless of stuff. It's just insane. I mean, some people have seen pictures of binders like full of shit that I wrote by hand to study how albums were put together. I was rewriting all the music to understand how production works, how music arrangements works. And I think when you do that work for any field, at some point, you digest that, and suddenly inspiration strikes more and more at any time. And very often, it strikes at times that you don't expect at all. But I find out that you can also manage to welcome inspiration also in an easier way once you have accumulated a lot of knowledge because well you have digested all that stuff, so now you're ready to um, make a nice recipe with all that stuff that you digested.
It's wonderful you're speaking about the moment of inspiration and everything that goes in behind that. But uh, a lot of professional creatives, if you speak to them honestly and bluntly, they'll say there's times when you just have to grind and put in the hours
uh,
and make things happen. Uh, is that your experience as well?
Well, it depends. There were times where, I there was times in my career where I had to work with people I didn't really enjoy. So yeah, it's
I'm
suddenly
not going to ask you to
becoming,
name any names, though.
yeah, exactly, right. But so that feels more like yeah, it's becoming a regular job and you just don't not enjoying the moment. that happens. But I'm not gonna complain because I think other kind of jobs are certainly way more boring than that.
Okay. There's another thing I'd like to ask you, which might be a little bit controversial.
Yeah.
I've been following you on LinkedIn for a while. That's how we got in contact, and obviously people know about your Grammy-nominated artists, Leona Lewis,
Mhm.
Anthony Hamilton, and obviously having a Grammy nomination and millions of singles being sold. That's a really big achievement. But you said those happened in your first month of arriving in LA. Does
Yeah.
that mean that after that it was all downhill and just like a lot of artists, they have their one big hit and they have to play that for
Right.
the rest of their life? How do you feel
Yeah.
about sort of how it started? Is it frustrating, or how do you view success?
So actually, success for me, it might be different from other people. Um, Success for me is realizing my dreams. And I can tell you that my favorite moments in my career were, for example, being in Cuba in my early 20s, living with families who represent the religious music of the island. These were absolutely insane times. And I also think, actually, the composition I did in salsa music at the time for bands were probably the best music I've ever did in my life. That's for sure. So then, working for like pop artists like Leona Lewis or Anthony Hamilton, that's cool too. Actually, I was insanely happy about working with Heavy D for Anthony Hamilton because these are very prestigious artists as well. So I would put that maybe on the second line. But things kept happening, and I had so many things happening in different genres of music. So I've never been to a Grammy ceremonies. I really don't care. To be honest with you know why I care? It's great for marketing. That's why when I do videos or when people come here, they see my nice walls. But that's just for marketing. So I'm happy with that. And lately I had two songs picked up to be used by the NBA in their video game. I have a rock song. So these songs for the NBA are like hip hop, like totally hip hop music. But I got a rock song that got picked up to be in The Stand, the new TV show on CBS as well, that got aired in December as well. So that's very, very different. But to me, it's as fun because it's so different and it's great. You're like you listen, you check the NBA and you hear your music. It's just really, really cool stuff. And it's also been a choice for me after 15 years of music. I worked so hard on learning the programming and the trading stuff that the past few years I might have been less involved with music, but I'm so happy about what I did in the programming world. It's insane. Like the software I did last year for the Hyperloop company brings incredible value for the company. And I'm so happy I did it. It was incredibly challenging. I learned a lot, but I've actually felt the happiest ever while I was coding that thing. And I thought, I was like, that's interesting. I'm even happier doing this than producing music. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe because it's very logical. So you get in the flow and you're like, oh yeah, if I do this, and once it's coded, it works, and it's so cool. You get instant result. It works, and then people can use it instantly. It's so rewarding. So my when I moved to the US and I worked on these big albums, these were my goals. That's it. But the last 5 years, my goals were to get in the best investments possible and to make very cool softwares. That's it. So now I'm completely open for new music projects as well. But it's just since I have the choice between the three fields, my goals change depending on what's going on or what I want to do, basically.
Perfect. Pascal, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. If people want to find out more about you and your work, what's the best place they can go to find out more?
Yeah, so they can go on my website. It's just Pascal Guyon, Guyon.com. I'm quite active on Twitter and Instagram. You can easily find me with my name as well there. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Perfect. I'll make sure to get those links down in the description below. Pascal, it's been wonderful speaking with you today, and I look forward to speaking again with you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave me a comment about what you thought and what you'd like to see more about. If you want to take your creativity and innovation capabilities to the next level, then invest in yourself with the premium training only available at ideatovalue.com. These exclusive training modules have all been put together by me, Nick Skillicorn, and have been used by thousands of artists, innovation leaders, and CEOs to become better at understanding the source of their creativity and executing on their innovation ambitions. And there is no risk to you, as they are backed by our money-back guarantee. Now, don't forget to go out there and make your ideas a reality. See you again soon.